Hold up, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up, hey. Woman.
Hold on. Let me finish my point, you jerk.
You don't call your dad a jerk.
Well, you're being a jerk.
We just had one of our guests on, Jason Fry, talking about the Celtics are going to win their 19th championship. So what have you got to say about that?
Who this Jason Fry character is, he was talking about doing hard shit. Well, his prediction is bullshit. Okay. All right.
I have a feeling we're about to be joined by Sir George. He normally comes out of the black hole. Oh, there he is. Sir George. He is
It's
back.
You play football. What's up? You never
Well,
look.
I just want to say,
Hey,
you
hey.
are.
Hey, Jerry. Hey, Jerry. I just sold Jerry a joke. Hey, Jerry. You said, well, this ain't your number one. You're number one, Jerry. Number one.
Oh my God. We're moving on. We've killed the Cowboys. Matter of fact, get out. I'm tired of talking to you. Give me freaking JJ. Bring JJ on the show. Holy crap. Let's hear his opinion about this damn trade and why they made this decision. I think you're trying to cover your own ass right now and just
Best
not admit
country of
you were
ninth
wrong.
in the country.
I think you're just trying to cover your ass right now. And don't.
But you know what? I got a big ass, so
That's a
it
lot
would
of
take
cover.
a lot of cover. It'd take a blanket, damn it.
More like a drape.
Did you just pull a drape? Is that so I can open it up when I need to go?
Hey, you're getting too deep into this.
Rivalries make sports great, but they
Yes.
got to be on the same level. And I'm sorry, Angel Reese ain't on the level of Caitlin Clark. Like, it's not Magic Bird.
If you don't want to commit to it, take your ass and be a PE all-star.
First off, you need to get your facts effing straight.
How do you like me now? How do you like me now? What? You're the coach. Shut up, dude. All you haters, shut the hell up. Just shut the hell up.
Whoa.
I won 5 Super Bowls, damn it. How dare you call the Cowboys a shit team? Watch the Cowboys. It'll be fun, they said. Bloody fucking hell, it was no fun.
It was like riding a train around one of the Kardashians' asses, and you just disappear into this abyss of ice. Somehow he talked about buttholes that made me hungry for a PBJ sandwich. It's 35-7, and it's only 7 because you just scored. Shut up.
Are you telling me coaches like Coach Popovich does plays in spaghetti noodles?
The thing about Coach Popovich is he actually liked to use popcorn with super glue.
Popcorn with super glue?
Yeah, he would put super glue little magnets on the bottom, and then he would arrange them on the board, and he would like color them different colors, and that would signify the opponents. And yeah,
Are those the players?
I don't want to give away any industry secrets on that particular thing, but yeah, I'm just gonna say you gotta. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm saying no more.
And they're playing with sticks, and they're playing with a little puck all the time.
Expert analysis right there. They play
The
with
fuck?
sticks and pucks.
Trying to grow the game, man. Global game.
These people, they don't give a damn.
Well, I don't really know, but it drives me nuts.
Hmm.
You're almost going to laugh. I can see it. Almost fixing to lose it. It drives me nuts.
Oh, man.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
Well, all right. It is me, the original solo tonight. Um, because the remix, as he calls himself, a legend in his own mind, got married this weekend, and they are off on their honeymoon. They're probably in the air right now. They are heading off to destinations unknown to have a good time, and it was a pretty amazing weekend for that. So we just all are glad that they have found each other, and hope they have a wonderful, wonderful honeymoon. And I know they're going to have a great life together. So it will be me holding down the fort tonight, but we're going to have some fun. Because you guys know me, I like to talk, so that's why I'm here. But we've got a lot to get to tonight. We've got a lot of things. Of course, we got the NBA going on, which I'll touch on. Try to give my somewhat in-depth analysis. You guys know the remix. Casey is a lot more into basketball and can get deeper into it than I can. But then we're going to talk a little bit about the NHL. I do want to say that having a problem going live on X tonight for some reason. We're going to keep working on that to get on there live. Everything else seems to be up and running, but it's only when I'm in the studio solo that we seem to have an issue. I don't know what the deal is, but so tonight we'll be talking a little bit. We've got the NFL. I got a few things I want to talk to about that. And we'll get to that. We'll talk a little bit about, I'm going to mention a little about women's soccer, which is a little off the wall, but there was something interesting in that. And then I'm going to bring back the subject because I didn't get to talk a lot about this flag football in the Olympics and just flag football in general. Because Casey seems to think that, it's something that is good out there. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I'll be talking about that. And then obviously, like I said, the NHL. And then I want to carry on something. Our network show, Bearded Bros, talked about this, talking about sports, top 10 or top 12 sports people of all time or figures of all time. So I'm going to be sharing my list, and it's more around legends, not necessarily sports figures, but sports legends. And then I will touch on that. So let me go ahead and stop trying to go on to X because it is just not working. So we're going to head over to Twitch and get on Twitch. So there we go. And once again, you can interact with the show if you are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, your chats. I will be able to see them. And we love it when folks get involved. I'm not always correct in what I say, or should I say, but it's opinions. And we all know the saying. Everybody has opinions like everybody has. Well, let's get to the dad joke for tonight. See if I can make a few of you laugh out there. So here we go. Well, let me get something up here. So let me just tell you, I went to a bar last night. It was good times. It was only a 15-minute walk, so it's fairly close. But you know what? The walk home took about 45 minutes. The 45 minutes, the difference was staggering. There you go. And a bonus one, since it is Thursday. As I get older, I remember all the people I lost along the way. But so maybe a career as a tour guide wasn't the best choice. But there you go. All right. So moving right along. Couple things I want to get started with, and we're just going to hop right into. We've got game 1 tonight of the NBA playoffs, and we're talking the Thunder and the Pacers. Now, you guys, if you watched the show last week or a few weeks back, yeah, and we got the twofer there. Yes, you did. But we got the Indiana Pacers and the Thunder going at it tonight. That kicks off in about 20 minutes, and for game one. And you guys kind of know how I feel about the Pacers and what they've done so far. I really do think it comes down to who's going to be able to when things don't go their way. And this is where you have a few people on both teams that are somewhat young. You've got some people who've got some things to prove. Like, to me, Halliburton is one that obviously with the Olympics and everything that went there, that he has something to prove. But I always look at the stats. I'm kind of that old Moneyball guy that really looks at the numbers. And so if you look at your team leaders, your point guard for Oklahoma was Shy, and then you've got Pascal with your power forward. And so the difference between them, and those are your top scores, and I'm just talking postseason. I'm not talking during the season. I'm talking postseason because that's when it matters. A lot of people will talk about what people did during the season, but once you get in the playoffs, it changes things, changes the game, so to speak. And so I really focus, whether we're talking NBA, we're talking NHL, we're talking NFL, it's really what you do in the playoffs. That's what matters the most. So if you look at the two top scorers with Pascal as power forward for the Pacers and Oklahoma with Shy, he's averaging in this postseason. Shy is 29.8 points, and whereas you have Pascal, he is at 21.1. So almost a full 10-point difference there. And then as you go down the line, things start to even out a little bit. So it really comes down to me, if I could talk tonight, it comes down to your top scorers and what they're going to do in this pressure situation. And I think throughout the season, what you've seen with the Pacers is an ability to just push through throughout the playoffs. And sorry, my computer was talking to me. I always get interruptions here, but I think they surprised everybody. At least they did to me. And just the way that they have pushed through the entire playoff series that they've been in. And so with Shy, I think this is where the difference comes in. Yes, his regular season stats were 32.7. Field goal percentage was above 50%. But like I said, the biggest thing we're looking at is looking at what he does in the playoffs. And he's one of those players that's been able to continue this throughout the playoffs. And if you look at Pascal, and I know I'm using their first names, it's because I suck at last names. You guys know that. And I don't want any videos on that one. So if we look at what these guys have done and why there's a difference between what Pascal has done in the regular season versus what he's doing in the playoffs during the regular season, and I get it. I get it that this is a over a long period, a much longer period of time than what you see in the postseason. But he was barely above 20 points a game. Whereas in the playoffs, he's still pretty close to that. So you haven't seen that jump. Now, as I said with Shy is actually maintaining it too. So that's one of the things that we want. You want your players to be able to be consistent. And I think that's what we've seen throughout these NBA playoffs is the teams and their best players have been able to stay consistent. And I think everybody would probably agree that that's what wins championships is consistency. Now, can someone get hot in a certain game, like a game 7 or something like that, and take over? Absolutely. Absolutely, that can happen. But it's consistency by your best players that are going to get you where you need to go. So I think, as I said before, even though Shy has that higher level of points per game in the playoffs, I really think Indiana is more focused and more consistent. As you look at their points per game, you look at what they've done throughout the playoffs, and the fact that they have, I'm trying to find a word besides resilience because I use that one a lot. But the fact that they have come in when no one expected them to, and not only taking out the Bucks, but then taking out a team that everybody, including me, had picked to roll through the playoffs in the Cavaliers. But the Cavaliers were a little bit of a younger team, but they rolled through everybody. And we talked about this before. Rarely do we see the number 1 seeds get to the NBA Finals. And the Pacers, the thing about it is they've won these series 4-1, 4-1, and now beating the Knicks 4-2. If you look at the Thunder, 4-0, 4-3 against the Nuggets, and then 4-1. So you've got 2 teams coming into this finals in the NBA that are used to winning. And what do I mean by that? I'm talking about in the playoffs. They're used to winning in the playoffs. And now you're going to be facing the best of the East. You're going to be facing the best of the West. To me, it's going to put more of a challenge. Now, if one team gets up 2-0 really quickly, which I do not think is going to happen, I think these are going to be hard-fought games because I do think these teams, even though the Pacers are a number 4 seed coming in, they've proven their battle readiness, so to speak, that I think if the Pacers can keep pace, no pun intended, with Oklahoma, pull off one of these games in the first couple of games or get up 2-0, then I think they have a chance to really close this thing out quickly. If it ends up being 1-1, then I think we're probably looking at a 7-game series. What do I think as far as how far this is going to go? I really think, based on how strong the Thunder is, how well they can score, and how well they took out the teams they had to face. Now, granted, they didn't face a number 2 or number 3, but the teams that they faced took those teams out, and the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. So I think this series is actually going to go to 7 games. That's my prediction. Because I think these teams just have a way of getting past those challenges. And as we move forward, I think they're very evenly matched. when you look at the stats on down the line, points per game, rebounds, I really think that this is going to go 7 games. And that's about the most in-depth analysis you're going to get from me in the NBA. But like I said, we'll have a lot more to talk about after this first game, which is starting in just about 10 minutes. And we're going to see, one of these teams could surprise us. The first game, a lot of time, someone is ready for it. A lot of times, someone is not ready for it. Or I should say, the team is not ready for it. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited about this series. I think it's going to be a good series, and like I said, I think this is really going to go down to 7 games, and I do think the Pacers pull this off. And that's not a knock on the Thunder, even though they would say it is, and their fans would say it is. But I just think the Pacers have just proven throughout these playoffs that they're not going to back off. And they're not going to listen to the chatter of, they shouldn't be here or there's no way they'll beat this team. They have rolled through. So there you go. That's what the NBA, if you guys have any more comments as we go forward, definitely join in. I think I did mention I've got a couple of guests tonight. We do have Swoop from the Philadelphia Eagles will be joining me for a quick interview. And I also have Vinny Russo, who is a Giants fan that will be joining me for an interview. You'll have to stick around and see that once we get into the NFL. Now, as we go forward, I'm going to talk a little bit. There was an interesting story, and I'm not going to take it to the NFL yet. We'll get to that. I'll save that kind of toward the end of the show. But the NWSL, some people may say, what is NWSL? Well, that is your National Women's Soccer League. Well, the reason I saw something interesting about this, because it's unless you're really paying attention, it's kind of under the radar, so to speak. But what fascinated me about this thing, and it's, we talk about women's sports and we talk about how trying to get some popularity in it. Now, for me, I think there should be a professional women's softball league. I think women's softball is an exciting game. It's fun to watch. You have some really good athletes in women's softball, and it is just it's an exciting game. And most of these women who play in this, and you can see the series that's been going on between Texas and the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Women's softball to me is an exciting game, and I think there may be a little contingent of professional women's softball, but it's obviously not up there with WNBA or back to the National Women's Soccer League, which is out there. I think a lot of us here in Houston got familiar with it because JJ Watt was married to someone who played for the women's team here in Houston for a while. So a lot of us kind of knew about it. But what's interesting to me is how many NFL players are investing in this. And quite one of the ones that caught my eye was, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning just joined the owners group for the Denver franchise. I'm not really sure what they're called. I guess I could look that up. But if you start looking at the different owners in there, you have Patrick Mahomes is one of the owners. You have Tom Brady, who, quite frankly, has been into a lot of stuff. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? I actually think it's a good thing because when you talk about women's sports getting recognized, having these names like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, investing in this, and I guess Eli Manning is also. They have the Gotham football. I guess that's the men's team. Let me just check that. But once again another soccer team, and but these names. Well, the thing I like about it is for the ladies, it gives them some notoriety because it. We've talked about this before. Women's sports is something that is fun to watch, but sometimes it's just hard to get into. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we don't know who the players are. In football, one of the reasons it's such a big sport, everybody is looking, but quite frankly, a lot of people are looking at these kids at high school coming out and they get recruited to college. So we're watching them. And you look at what's happened with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. We knew about her coming up through college. So it added to the popularity of the sport as she made that jump because we kind of were with her in her career and watched it. And we're still doing that. So in these other leagues, to have these type of names like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes, and some of these folks that are helping, I think it's a good thing. You're more than welcome to share your opinion, but I think it's a good thing. I think the ladies should have a outlet for competitive sports, and not something that is that's like the lingerie football. Even though I most guys are like, ooh, lingerie football, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is true competition of professional sports. And I think we have, as he says here, one of our other shows, network shows from Recognize the Game, Peyton Manning's part of the WNBA team to Tennessee too. So I'm just going to say Peyton Manning just seems to be in a lot of different areas. We see him on Monday Night Football during the season. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I get a little bored with them. I just don't think they. I think Eli and Peyton are not taken away from them as football players, football legends, Super Bowl winners, all that stuff, but it's really just need to have a little bit more excitement. They're sitting around watching TV and talking about it, and they bring on guests, which I think they realized early on that they needed to bring on guests. And then if you guys recognize the game, our new teammate Mac is a football player, beast. So tune in for them. Recognize the game. You guys need to put in the chat what night y'all are on, because I'm an old man, I forget, so I can let everybody know. But welcome to you guys and Mac, who's joining us. You guys will get to know him. Just follow our Tired Sports Network. We're growing. We're adding more shows as we go along. And I hope you guys really, really tune in and check it out because you're getting different perspectives. Our Philly show talks a lot of baseball. Our Bearded Bros, our founding group, they talk a lot about basketball, get deep into college, and so all these shows kind of bring a different perspective. That's kind of fun to watch. So with that, and there you go. Mac is Monday and Tuesday at 4:30 Central. So there you go. Monday and Tuesday, 4:30 Central. And then we have Sunday night, Monday morning, 1 a.m. Central. Wow, you guys are on at 1 a.m.? Seriously? Okay. I'm probably not going to watch that one myself because that's past the old man's bedtime there. But so let me just put that up on the screen in case you're keeping track there. Sunday night, Monday morning, 1 a.m. Central Time. And then we also had the Monday and Tuesday at 4:30 Central. So what's cool about that is we are starting to get more shows and bring more people on board, and we're really trying to grow. So with that, I'm going to tell you we definitely need sponsors. So please, whether you're sponsoring our show, whether you're sponsoring any of our other shows or our network, please, we will help you get the ad together. We will do everything we can to get you in there as a sponsor, because sponsors keep us on the air. So speaking of sponsors, I'm going to go ahead and play our sponsor, our primary sponsor, Easy Leadership, which I am a member of. But I'm going to bring in Sharon to tell you all about Easy Leadership and one of our assessments.
Have you heard of the DISC communication tool? Yes, most people in business have. But there is a new tool out there that is tailored for leadership teams. It is called the DISC Work of Leaders and focuses on 3 main areas: vision, alignment, and execution. This amazing assessment is not just a game changer. It is a business strategy necessity if you want to create sustainability. Let's be honest, a lot of executives spend many hours in HR dealing with people issues, and that happens because of reactive leadership. If you are sitting in HR trying to figure out what happened after the fact, then you are not able to concentrate on running your department or business, and it steals your time. Email us or call. It's free to talk about it and learn how to become proactive in your leadership. Big or small, we have a plan to build on your strengths and an action plan for your challenges. Join Eddie Schedule, our CEO and founder, for a quick video on what a report does for you. Head over to our website and scroll down to see this amazing video of the DISC Work of Leaders tool. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right. So that was Sharon and letting you know about Easy Leadership. Yes, we have some really cool stuff there. Please go check out our website at easyleadership.com. We have some free stuff there for you too. You can find out what type of leader you are. You can find out your communication behavior, and that's all free. You can check it out anytime you want. And so with that, let's make the transition to the NHL, which the Stanley Cup playoffs have begun. And not only have they begun, we had an overtime game last night, and a lot of the folks in our group chat for our sports network were talking about it. I think there were some comments last night. Is hockey always this stressful? And the answer is yes, it is. Because hockey to me, and I love the game. Obviously, one of my sons, not Casey. Casey was obviously the basketball player, but and then Dallas, who is his little brother, played ice hockey. And it was something that I was always, it go way back. And I know I'm dating myself. Dallas actually had a minor league team called the Dallas Blackhawks for a long time. And then they kind of went away. And then obviously the Dallas Stars moving to Dallas brought it back to the Metroplex area. And there's actually a huge hockey following up there with the Dr. Pepper Centers, if they're still called that, Star Centers. But Texas, where you wouldn't figure there's a big hockey following, there's actually a lot of different hockey teams here in Texas. You have the Corpus Christi Ice Rays. You have one of my favorite teams, and I've only got to see them because my son played out there. Dallas played out there a couple times. Is in Midland, Odessa. They have the Jackalopes, and it is one of the funnest things to go watch. Hockey live is so much different than it is on TV. And I think that's where it gets lost in translation, as they say, when you're watching it on TV. Until we get to the playoffs. Last night, of course, we have the Edmonton Oilers and we have the Florida Panthers back in this thing for a Stanley Cup. And last night, it really looked like the Panthers were going to come in and take this game early, going up 2-0. Well, Edmonton fought back and took this thing to overtime. And overtime hockey is intense. Let me just put it that way. I can't think of another sport that has such an intense overtime other than hockey. Football, you talk about it. Yeah. And the NFL, back when the first team scored, won the game, it might have been a little bit more intense. But of course, now you have different rules in the overtime, which are fine. I think are just fine. I'm not complaining about that. But in hockey, it's literally the 5-on-5. Let's find out who's going to be the better team. Well, last night, and the thing about hockey, they're going to continue, obviously, just like any other sport. You got to have a winner when it's a series. So they're going to play as many overtimes as need be. I'll have to look it up, but I think one team one time in the playoffs ended up playing 6 overtimes, I think is a record. I'll have to look that up for you guys. But last night, that entire overtime continued to roll through, and we get into the last minute. It is 3-3, and you're thinking, wow, we're going to have to stay up late. And I think it was already about 10:45 Central Time, so Eastern Time, it's getting close to midnight. But then we have a score in literally on the clock. It is into 1929 into the game. So literally, you are talking 30 something seconds left in the game, and Edmonton scores the goal. And the thing is, they're playing in Edmonton, and Draisaitl, once again messing up people's names. It was just what's crazy about this whole thing was Gretzky. Gretzky, if you're watching him on the network that was showing it last night, he said McDavid needs to get to the side of the net and look for Draisaitl. And that's exactly what happened to win the game. And but McDavid, if you look at the third period goal, and Casey's talked about this, and McDavid is just, he's one of those players that always seems to find a way to be there when you need him. And you had a goal that tied the game, which was scored by Ekholm in the third period at 6 minutes and 33 seconds, a snapshot, but it was an assist from McDavid. It came from Kapanen, then it went to McDavid, and then it went to Ekholm in the net and tied this thing up. You go into overtime. Here's McDavid showing up again with another assist to get it to Draisaitl in, like I said, less than literally 1 minute left in the game. Everybody's thinking, man, we're going to be here for another overtime. How long is this going to go? But boom, gets the shot across the front of the net to Draisaitl. Draisaitl snapshots that thing right over the top of Florida's goalie. And it was an amazing, and of course the crowd goes wild. It was just an amazing night. And this is just game one. This wasn't game 7. This is just game 1. And these crowds are going crazy. Well, first off, Edmonton, obviously it's Canada. Hockey's their sport, and they love it. And of course, they're playing probably the furthest down, playing the Florida Panthers from Canada. Probably that's a long trip. But it was just an amazing game. So what I encourage you to do is, if you've never really watched hockey, just take a little bit of time and watch these games. And whether you're a fan or not, obviously I'm a fan of the Dallas Stars on this side over here. And I'm pretty heartbroken that Edmonton took them out again. But it just, McDavid is their nemesis. But I say that, but McDavid is pretty much everybody's nemesis in the NHL. The guy is just strong. He's fast, and he just finds a way in clutch situations to do amazing things. So I really encourage you to watch this. We'll have game 2 is tomorrow at 8 Eastern time. And once again, they're playing in Edmonton, Alberta. And we'll see what happens. So going back to my philosophy on being consistent, I do think, and I know a lot of people say this, they mainly say it in basketball, that it's not a series until someone loses at home. So we're going to see what happens here. What I saw last night on the ice was Florida during the first 2 periods were able to keep the puck in Edmonton's zone for a long time. And Skinner was playing out, even though he gave up 3 goals, he was playing out of his mind. And that's been the difference in Edmonton really being the team to beat is Skinner. And everybody's kind of on edge, I think, in Edmonton because Skinner wasn't predicted and didn't do so great in the first couple series in the playoffs. But he has just last night, the plays that he made that I think blew Florida's mind is they literally had open net, and Skinner just found a way to get his blocker, to get his catcher's mitt, whatever it be, or his stick to deflect that puck in very, very intense situations. And so now what happened in this game toward the end, one of the reasons that Edmonton was able to finish the thing out in overtime was a penalty. And I'm going to be, yep, he definitely did. Let me bring that up so you guys know what I'm talking about here. Skinner kept them in the game big time. Yeah, he did. Sean from one of our other shows, or Sorry Not Sorry. He definitely kept them in the game. Now, one of the things, what had happened is with Florida, and his name escapes me who did it. I don't think it was Marchand. But one of the penalties in hockey is when you're in your offensive zone and you take the puck and you send it over the glass in that offensive zone before it gets to the blue line, then that's a penalty. And it's a delay of game penalty. And you're going to send somebody to the box, and the team is going to get a power play. Now, what happened last night was that penalty occurred, and let me see, in overtime. Yeah, it was Nosek. I hope I'm saying his name right. Delay of game, because he was just trying to get the puck out of the zone, and it went over the glass. This has always been a penalty to me that it's not open to interpretation, but sometimes you feel like it should be, because it's a critical point in the game. When you're talking, it literally in overtime, they had just passed 18 minutes. It was 18-17 into the overtime. So it's basically the last couple of minutes. And that's what allowed Draisaitl to get in there, and because they're on the power play. It's a power play goal. And both these teams are so strong on the power play. Anytime that they get that chance, it's going to be really hard to stop them. And quite frankly, Edmonton is scary good on the power play when you get McDavid out there. Um, so I don't know. It's one of those things. If we said, okay, well, it wasn't intentional that he put it over the glass, then you would get into the whole thing of having the ref having to interpret and going back and looking at the video. Was it intentional? So, and I think Sean's saying it's such a tough penalty to take when you're being pressured and just trying to get rid of the puck. Yeah, and it is. And here's the thing, for you folks who've never played hockey. Hockey is an extremely, extremely tough sport when it comes to just the physical part of it. And that's why you have line changes, because you are literally giving so much energy to get down the ice, and they make it look so easy. And but the thing is, a lot of these hockey players are not like as big as football players. Now they look that way because they are wearing a lot of padding, a lot of padding. And I know I played in a little bit in an adult league and had all this weight on me. I kind of looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man out there in a hockey jersey. And I was glad I had that stuff on, because when you fall, it saved me numerous times. Let's just put it that way. But so these hockey players are not all the time these big muscle bound guys. They are just very in shape guys. And a lot of times when you see them take their pads off and their bodies, they are more like a marathon runner than they are an athlete that's going to go out there and just, hit each other, which is another big part of hockey. So getting back to that penalty, I think the penalty needs to be there, because in a clutch situation like it was last night, someone could just throw the puck over the glass and basically if they're being pressured, they can stop that pressure. But now it allows for, and I don't know if this rule was changed at some point. That's something I'll have to go back and look at. But now, not being able to do that and throw the puck over the top, then you're able to force the defensive team to work harder to get the puck out of the zone. And okay, so Sean, what is he saying? He's Varsky looks like a toothpick right now. They're saying he loses around 15 pounds a game somehow. This is another thing. And I'm not claiming to be a hockey player. Didn't play it when I was a kid. Like I said, one of my sons did. But the energy and the sweat, because they are wearing so many pads, even though they're playing on ice, and you would think, okay, it's cold down there, that helps. But because they exude so much energy and so many, I guess, calories, you would say, just skating, it's an amazing thing to watch, and an amazing thing to see them when they take these pads off, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They are not big bodybuilder guys, just like he was saying. One of them, they lose weight. They can lose 5 to, as he said, 15 pounds per game. So you have to somehow make that up and get those calories back before you get ready. And that's why they can't play a hockey game, every single night, because it's just too hard. I remember I used to yell at my son about skating. You need to skate faster. Why aren't you skating? And then I got out there and gave it a shot. And I pulled my son to the side and I apologized to him. I said, man, I will never, ever, ever yell at you about skating faster, because that is the hardest shit I have ever done in my life. I would much rather play football and get hit by big guys than trying to keep up on the ice, even though it is an amazing game. It's a lot of fun. And so if you have that where you're at, or just getting out there and skating. It's a lot of fun, but it is extremely an extremely physical sport. You know, I remember one of my sons, Dallas, the one who played hockey, he asked me one time, "What's tougher, football player or a hockey player?" I said, "Okay, let me put it to you this way. Tony Romo, when he was playing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, hurt his pinky finger, and he was out 5 weeks. Jaromir Jagr was playing in a playoff game, got hit in the mouth with a puck, knocked his teeth out. He went over, skated, picked up his teeth, put it in a rag, handed it to the trainer, wiped off his face, and then went back in the game and scored a goal." And I said, "So you tell me who's tougher, Pinky or Jaromir Jagr?" That was one of the great. I always used to love watching Jaromir Jagr. He was just a tenacious player, really hard-nosed player. Some of those guys, I really miss the guys that were out there. One of my favorite players for the Dallas Stars was Darian Hatcher, big defenseman, and he would take you out back when they allowed a lot more of the fighting to you. But so I still think this is going to be a good series. Obviously, when the first game goes to overtime, we'll see how that goes. It shows you how evenly matched, but I do think it's going to come down to the goalies. And right now, the Skinner that is out there that's playing for them is the one who's going to be the difference maker in this. So, got a couple things as we move into transition a little bit here. I'm going to talk about sports legends let's go ahead and bring that up. I know the other show was kind of talking about this. Mine is going to be a little bit different. Let me bring this up here. My list. This is the originals list. Oh, and I covered up my original list there. That's because I was in a hurry. I wanted to get this up here. Now, you may not agree with this, but when these are my top 9, I guess if I threw in 10, and I thought I had 10, but I guess that somehow left off the list. But when I'm talking about legends of sport, then there's a reason why I'm saying this and why certain ones are there. You may say that someone was a better athlete. You may say someone was a better, more popular in their game. But these people that I have on this list, and I don't know what happened to, where is my 10th player? I could have swore I had 10 players on here. I have to go back and look at my original list of who was left off. But we'll stick with the 9 that we have here. Michael Jordan, obviously. To me, when it comes to what he did for his game, not only did he win 6 NBA championships, 5 MVP awards, he had numerous scoring titles. To me, he revolutionized the game. And what do I mean by that? Is he brought what a lot of people don't remember is in the 70s and really the first part of the 80s, the NBA was not near as popular as obviously it is today, even though it's faltering. But he brought it up to a level of popularity to where it was literally, to me, almost even with the NFL and Major League Baseball, where it had not been for a long time. And not only was he transcendent in that piece of it, but you had a guy that you could let your kids look up to in Michael Jordan. He wasn't a guy like, say, sorry, Terrell, I'm going to have to pick on you, but a guy like Terrell Owens that you don't really want your kids looking up to, even though he's a great player. But not only that, that inspiration for that and elevating the NBA's profile. Then the other thing that you have to look at is the Air Jordan. And I realized there's a whole movie on this, how all that came to be. But, and Casey's one of them, wanted an Air Jordan. I'm like, can't afford that. And that's a tennis shoe. And he really transcended that part of the sponsorship part of it. Of course, you had, sports figures before that doing certain things, but Jordan took it to a much different level, in my opinion. Back in the day, you had a lot of people remember the Coke commercial with Mean Joe Green. Maybe you're a little bit too young to remember that, but you had little things like that. But when Jordan came along and the Air Jordans, this went to a different level of marketing, and it really created something that influenced not just in basketball but the sports marketing impact. He revolutionized sports marketing, and basically created that blueprint for athlete endorsements and branding in the sports industry. And like I said, the reason he did that is because he was someone that you could have your kids look up to. He was that type of model player because of his work ethic, because of just how the tenacity to play the game. He wasn't someone that you would consider a prima donna. So that's why he's at the top of the list there. Moving down, the list here, Muhammad Ali. Now, boxing has really kind of, in my opinion, fell by the wayside. It's not near as popular as it used to be. Now you have the UFC, which is guys brawling without the boxing gloves and the cage and everything. And that's where it's kind of moved from. But not only did Ali win 3 heavyweight championships, at the time he did it, you talk about the guys he faced were legends: Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. And the thing is, moving away from Michael Jordan and how Ali was very in your face. Ali was going to tell you he was going to beat you. It was part of his style and part of his intimidation in the ring. But the other thing, if you look at through his prominence and when he was coming up, was during the civil rights movement. And Ali became a very, very well known to be one who was out there fighting for the civil rights. And he was one of the first real athletes to use his fame and use his notoriety, I should say, in the sport to get that message out there. And he really, a lot of people, he was a fighter, but his messages promoted peace, equality, and social justice, and he inspired generations to stand up for their rights. If you go back to that time, so that's where he was a legend, a sports legend, and that's what I'm talking about. Is, like I said, his journey in and out of the ring showcases incredible resilience, inspiring many to overcome their own challenges. A lot of people could relate to that, even if they weren't in the civil rights fight. And that courage to stand up for his beliefs made him that iconic figure, inspiring others to fight for their rights. So his influence extended well beyond boxing. And just that's what made him a legend. Now, the next one, Pele. And maybe this is because I'm just a little bit older, but if you look at, and I'm really talking about from America's perspective on this, is soccer and world soccer was just something they did overseas. It wasn't something that was hugely popular in the U.S. But Pele, because he could do a lot of tricks, he could do. That's what a lot of people know him for. Is just his ability with a soccer ball, that he's in a lot of commercials or whatever. But I want you to think about something when you think about the World Cup. The World Cup. He won 3 FIFA World Cups. 3. Some guys never win that. Some don't even ever get the chance in soccer to play for the World Cup, much less win it. He won 3 championships. 3. That's huge. And what it did was, even though soccer still didn't come to the prominence that some of the other sports did, it put it on the map for at least in America. And America's where it was, right? So if you look at that, and here's the thing, for those who never saw Pele or watched him, he had this charisma about him. He was a likable guy. He was funny, even though he was talented, but he was that global ambassador for soccer. And he engaged countless people to get involved with it. And popularity of it probably doubled in America, even though it didn't go to becoming prominence, like I said, like some of the other sports. But he inspired millions to take up that sport. And that's why I feel he is a legend. And he's definitely a national hero in Brazil. And an icon of soccer that people who didn't even watch him when you say the name. Now, the next guy on the list is one of my favorite people, just because he's another one that I think is a good guy, and that's Mr. Bolt, Usain Bolt. So let's just talk really quickly about his achievements and why he's a legend. He won 8 Olympic gold medals in running, sprinting. And then he holds world records in the 100 meter, the 200 meter. And his popularity really created it's a global impact on that. People really got into wanting to see this guy. Was he really the fastest man on earth? And then he's a guy who comes from a small area in Jamaica, and really becomes this guy who comes out of nowhere, wins 8 gold medals, and is just someone that the other thing I guess I would say is showmanship. Is that, once again, like Pele, Usain Bolt also had that charisma, that energy, that created excitement around what he did. Because you think about the 100 meters, it lasts for just a few seconds, right? It doesn't take very long. So the fact that he was able to provide global inspiration in a sport that doesn't take that long, was really remarkable, in my opinion. And he just, if you watch him, and there's lots of videos of him, of how he would go up and fist bump people who were there that were just there to help with the event or whatever. He saw the common people there, and wanted to make sure that he acknowledged, hey, let's do this, appreciate you. And you almost felt like part of his team when he did things like that. And he just, I guess another word I would use, he had a certain swagger about him, that you didn't get this feeling that he was a prima donna, but he was hugely popular and really brought prominence to track and field. And if you think about it, before he was there, and how many of us watched the 100 meters, 200 meters? Some of you might have because maybe you were into track and field and all that. But if you knew Usain Bolt was running, you wanted to see it because you knew it was going to be exciting and you wanted to see, is this guy really still the fastest man on earth? Which for a long, long time, he was. And then that brings me to Mr. Woods, Tiger Woods. I don't have to tell you a whole lot, but 15 major championship titles. Boom. There you go. And I know they talked about this on the other show the other night because he was on the list. He did transform golf's popularity. Until then, it was just golf is okay. It wasn't something that everybody was into. But once Tiger came on the scene, you had just huge following on the golf course and just huge following that of people being involved in golf and wanting to play golf. And a lot of those were kids. And so he really took golf into what I would say new demographics, expanding its appeal to an audience globally. And he broke a lot of barriers because he was one of the first colored gentlemen to play in the Masters. And he broke a lot of those barriers down that were still there. The Good Old Boy Network was still there in a lot of these areas, but you couldn't hold the guy back because he was the best in the world. So his influence attracted fans from various backgrounds, making it just a more inclusive sport. And that carries on to this day, and now everybody is compared to him. He inspired young golfers, and just his work ethic too. He's another one that, obviously he had his trouble with the whole scandals and things like that, with his ex-wife and all these things, that obviously caused some serious issues and put a little bit of a damper on his legacy. But he is still the one who brought golf to where it is today and is constantly compared. So moving on, the next one on my list is the Babe. And obviously he played before even I was born. And so a lot of folks will say, well, that was way back. But when you talk about legends, when your name is remembered as one of the greatest of all time, there's been numerous movies about you. You are a sports legend. And Babe Ruth is definitely the one that is a sports legend because not only did he have all these home run records and set the mark so high for a long time that everybody thought there's no way that anyone will catch him. He won World Series titles, lots of them, but he transformed baseball with not just his skills, but also his bravado, so to speak. Off the field, he wasn't your typical baseball player, smoking cigars and all that stuff. But during that time period, baseball grew in popularity during the early 20th century. And he was a big part of that, putting baseball on the map and having it grow, because there wasn't as many teams, obviously, as we have today. There was a smaller group of teams during that time, but his popularity helped it grow. And he really became that figure that created controversy, that created buzz around the sport that was outside of just the sport. Whereas, we have a lot of that going on. I mean, that's what we talk about today. It's probably the reason we're on here talking. is because there's a lot of things that come up about that. But he's just, his legacy is still there and obviously is a legend. And so moving on with Tom Brady, I mean, 7 Super Bowl titles. But who's going to catch that? You know, a lot of people say, oh, Mahomes will catch it. Well, he's still got a long, long way to go. And then Brady had multiple MVPs. Um, and it's literally hard to think of anybody that you can put up there on the level of Tom Brady when it comes to what he did in the long period of time that he did it. Not just the championships, but his work ethic, his discipline for performance, and just he was very tactical in his approach to football. And when I talk about being consistency to win championship, Tom Brady is the mark of consistency. The man lived and breathed football for the years that he played it. And you can hear that just in his knowledge of football when he's out there now as an announcer. And just he's still involved in the game as in ownership and obviously as a announcer. And sorry, Tony Romo, but I actually think Brady's better. I know a lot of people like Romo and his ability to figure out the game, but I think Brady actually does that a little bit better. Even though, you know, obviously I like Romo, but so moving on, we all know about Brady, but that brings me to Gretzky. Gretzky, just he's another one. You know, back when I was a kid, we had Saturday morning cartoons, and they had this cartoon that had Bo Jackson, it had Wayne Gretzky, it had the Admiral from the Spurs, David Robinson. They had someone else. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. But they had their own cartoon. But hockey was not something that was hugely popular outside of being south of Canada. Obviously, we've had hockey teams up in the East a lot with Detroit, Blackhawks, and things like that, and some of the original teams. But Gretzky brought popularity to the sport to whereas now all of a sudden you had hockey in LA. Now all of a sudden you had hockey in Florida. Now all of a sudden you started seeing hockey teams pop up and the popularity of it started to grow. And that had to do with Gretzky. And yes, there were other players, Bobby Orr, there's a lot of different players that you can bring. But when a player takes a sport that isn't necessarily, it's a lot like Tiger did for golf, and brings it to a different level of popularity, it's just, he's a legend because he transcended not just being a player, but being a catalyst for the game and helping it grow. You know, he's known as the great one. There's a reason why his jersey hangs in every single hockey rink in the NHL, because they know that his legacy as the great one. He had unparalleled skill on the ice, and he's another one. When I was talking about hockey players and how they look and their body, so to speak, he is not someone that you see as this big giant athlete. Wayne Gretzky just kind of looks like your average guy, but he was way above average. And then that brings me to the last person on my list here, and that's Jesse Owens. A lot of people, because it was so long ago, Jesse Owens went into the 1936 Berlin Olympics at a time when Adolf Hitler was running Germany. And Jesse Owens went in there. And if you've ever watched the movie, I think they did a really good job with it. Go back and watch this because there was so much against him not only going to Germany and everything that was going there, but even in his home country, he was still, you know, he was discriminated against. But he went in on the world stage and instantly brought the Olympics and the Americans up to a standard of wow, he just went in there and beat the best athletes in the world and did it in Hitler's face. In Hitler's face. And I say that because Hitler was in the stadium when Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals in the 1936 Olympics. So much so that Hitler got up and left. It was, if you think about legends and you think about the amount of courage it took, not just the athletic part of it for Jesse Owens, but the courage to face all this racial backlash that he was getting, that he got in his own country, but to go to Germany, where obviously we know what happened there, and get in their face and show them that I'm the best in the world. And it doesn't matter what I look like, but I'm the best in the world. And now you see that and you have to admit it. So his achievements inspired future movements in civil rights. It motivated individuals to stand up. And, you know, if you look at what Muhammad Ali did during his time, Jesse Owens did it during a time then it was way more difficult. But his legacy is basically a symbol of courage in the face of all that adversity. And he did it on the world stage just as Ali did it, but in a time, like I said, where literally people were being killed in Germany just because of what they looked like and who they were. So it continues, you know, that's why I really, when you talk about legends, he was just, you can't not put him on the list of sports legends. So that's my top 9. I would probably, and I don't have her on here, Simone Bowles from Houston in the Olympics is probably another one that I would throw on there, or maybe Serena from tennis. You definitely, as we get into the 10, 11, and 12, I think Serena and Venus from tennis would be other ones that broke barriers and just have become legends in the game and really made tennis more popular for everyone and transcended the sport into a different level. So, okay, that's my top 9 sports legends of all time, whether you agree with it or not. But now, the next thing we want to do is we're going to talk a little NFL. So before I get to the NFC East and my couple of guests that we're going to have on here in just a few minutes, let me just touch on my feelings about Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people are like, wow, I'm excited about that. Well, I'm going to tell you, and I'm sorry to burst your bubble, I do not think it's a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, do they need a quarterback, a consistent quarterback? Yes, absolutely they do. But I just do, and I think we saw this with the Jets, and I really don't just think it's me coming up with this, is that I think a lot of folks would agree that Aaron Rodgers is not the Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. And not only that, when Aaron Rodgers, when he was with the Packers and the team was challenged on the field, his game went up. He lifted his game up. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is what you're getting now, because I think we saw it with the Jets. I think he does not have the same fire in his belly that he had back when he was younger and played with the Green Bay Packers. And I think the Jets when the Green Bay Packers let him go and he signed with the Jets, and there was such a huge push that, wow, we're going to win a Super Bowl because now we have this Hall of Fame quarterback or future Hall of Fame quarterback. And then he gets hurt in the very first game, and it all ends. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has been the same since that, because there was so much disappointment, and that has affected him mentally. And we saw that with the Jets. And I think that Pittsburgh is getting a damaged Aaron Rodgers. And I don't mean a damaged physically Aaron Rodgers. I think mentally Aaron Rodgers is damaged. Is because, why do I say that? Because I think if the game doesn't go his way, he's more along the lines of blaming the team and not taking it on his shoulders to win the game. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be that person that's going to lead the Steelers to the promised land. And I would bet money during the season he either gets hurt or he gets replaced. I just don't think you're getting a lot with the Aaron Rodgers we see. So, all right, so let's talk about the NFL. So with the NFL, I've got a couple guests that I'm going to bring on, and I've been kind of going through the NFC East. Last week, I had JJ on to talk about it. I had Major Tuddy on to talk about the Commanders. Well, this week we have Swoop from the Philadelphia Eagles that I interviewed earlier. So I'm going to play you that interview. Let me take this off. I'm going to play you the interview. And let's see what Swoop has to say. Now, Swoop, he's obviously in his mascot uniform. And so here he is. Here we go. As the Eagles mascot, you're the feathered face of Philly pride. So how do you see the upcoming NFL season going for the team?
Yo, Philly's gonna soar. Our squad's stacked. Jalen Hurts is slinging passes so smooth, they're calling him the cheesesteak slinger. We're diving straight into the playoffs, maybe even snatching that Super Bowl with my talons. I'm predicting a 15-2 season, and the 2 losses are just to keep things humble. Fly, Eagles, fly.
That's some high-flying confidence right there. So what's your game plan to hype up the team and the fans this season?
I'm cranking up the energy with my signature swoop swoop shimmy at halftime. Got moves so wild even the refs can't resist dancing. Plus I'm dropping hoagies from the rafters to fire up the crowd. Nothing says Philly like a meatball sub raining from the heavens.
Oh, gotta watch out for those hoagies. Sounds like a party. Speaking of fun, what does Swoop do off the field to unwind?
Off the field? I'm a thrill seeker, baby. I go base jumping off the Liberty Bell. Don't tell the park rangers. Also, I'm the undefeated champ of Philly Dive Bar Karaoke. My go-to? Sweet Caroline, but I change it to Sweet Philadelphia. Gets the crowd going nuts. Oh, and I prank call Cowboys fans pretending to be a pizza guy who lost their order. Classic.
Well, that's savage. Now, you're always decked out in green. Pretty iconic. But be honest, how do you feel about wearing green all the time?
Look, green's my jam. Matches my vibe, screams Eagles pride. But every day, I'm molten over here. Sometimes I want to strut in a nice blue or maybe a flashy gold, but the team's like, Swoop, you're a forest green legend, deal with it. I snuck a red bandana on once, and the equipment guy nearly had a heart attack. Still, I dream of a tie-dye Tuesday, you know?
Tie-dye Swoop would be a sight. Well, final words for the Eagles fans before the season kicks off.
Get your wings up. We're going to claw our way to glory this season. And if we win the Super Bowl, I'm leading the parade on a monster truck dropping soft pretzels for all. EAGLES Eagles.
Well, there you have it. Swoop from the Eagles. Back to the studio. All right. So that was Swoop. I'm not sure about this whole thing about calling Cowboys fans. I think I have had that guy calling me before about that. And he's talking about tie-dye. That's kind of funny. Yeah, and his lips move a little funny as he goes, but that was Swoop. So you heard it. They're going back to the Super Bowl. Philadelphia, I don't know if Sean, you guys are listening. That was your mascot right there saying that they're going back and he's going to be throwing hoagies from the Raptors. Okay. Well, we will not hold our breath. All right. Well, there you go. So now I want you guys, this next person that I'm going to be talking to you about or interviewing, the Giants do not have a mascot. And as I was, talking to these folks about this, I didn't realize that the Giants don't have a mascot. They just got a bunch of crazy fans. So what we did, I went out and found Vinny, the Big Blue Russo, who is a fan. And so I'm going to share. He's kind of weird looking, but I'm going to share my interview that I had earlier with Vinny Big Blue Russo. So here we go. Continuing our interviews with mascot and fans and owners through the NFC East as we go along. We now have a special treat for you. We have Vinny Big Blue Russo. He is a pretty crazy fan for the Giants. And we're going to bring him in and interview him. He is, if you guys know what crazy eyes are, you'll kind of see it in Vinny. But let's bring him into the studio. Let me hit the button so he doesn't hear what I was saying. All right, Vinny. Thanks for joining us. As a lifelong Giants fan, you're known for your, not just your look, but your enthusiasm. So how do you see the upcoming NFL season going for the Big Blue?
Yo, listen up. This is our year. The Giants are going to steamroll the league like a meatball sub through a paper towel. Our QB? He's got Eli's spirit in him. Saw him throw a 70-yard bomb in my dreams last night. We're going 17-0 straight up Super Bowl.
Well, that's bold, Vinny. What makes you so sure the Giants are Super Bowl bound this year?
Heart, guts, and garlic knots, my friend. Our defense is fiercer than my Nana when you skip her Sunday sauce. Offense? We got receivers catching balls like they're grabbing the last slice of pizza at a tailgate. Plus, I lit a candle at St. Patrick's Cathedral and prayed to the ghost of Lawrence Taylor. That's a lock, baby.
Well, speaking of locks, the NFC East is tough. You got the Eagles, you got my Cowboys, Commanders. Any worries about the competition?
Eagles? Bunch of pigeons playing dress-up. Cowboys? Jerry Jones thinks he's winning, but his team's softer than a cannoli cream. Commanders? Their mascot's a pig. My cousin Sal could tackle him. Giants are taking the division by week 6, and I'm eating cheesesteaks in Philly just to rub it in.
Well, I love the confidence. What's your game day ritual to bring the Giants luck?
It's sacred, all right? I wear the same unwashed jersey from our 2011 Super Bowl run. Smells like victory and a little like mozzarella. Then I do exactly 32 push-ups for Tiki Barber's number, and I chug a Yoo-Hoo while blasting Sweetness by Springsteen. Last season, I forgot the Yoo-Hoo once, and we lost. Never again, man.
Well, just one last question, Vinny. If the Giants win a Super Bowl, What's your celebration plan?
When? I'm climbing the Empire State Building with a Giants flag screaming, Big Blue forever. Then I'm throwing a block party in Jersey with 10,000 meatball heroes and a DJ spinning only Bon Jovi. Eli's invited, and I'm getting a tattoo of his face on my back. Full color, baby.
Well, there you have it. Vinny, the Big Blue Russo. We'll have to have him on again with those crazy eyes. But all right. So we've been through the NFC East with a few of these mascots, owners, and we'll see which one we do next time. Till then, back to the studio.